The takeover. The Caitlin Clark takeover continues as she continues to destroy ESPN ratings. Absolutely took the hammer and smashed the ratings as always. Not only that, Caitlin Clark appears to be in the top 3 for the MVP award. We have got to get into it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit the bell notification, hype the video. That'd be greatly appreciated. We got to get right into things, man. Caitlin Clark absolutely on fire, took over. And this is what I'm saying.
Something has changed around Caitlin Clark, and the numbers are making it harder for anyone to ignore. The MVP conversation that once seemed out of reach is suddenly right in front of her. According to the transcript, Clark is sitting among the top contenders alongside Aya Wilson and Olivia Miles, while her impact goes far beyond simple scoring. She is being credited with leading the league in points created, combining her scoring and playmaking to generate roughly 40 points a game for Indiana. That changes the entire argument. Kelsey Mitchell may be scoring at a slightly higher rate, but Clark's passing, shot creation, and ability to force defenses to constantly adjust give her a completely different level of influence. And then there's the television audience. The transcript highlights an Indiana Fever, Chicago Sky matchup that drew 2.6 million viewers, reportedly up 79%, while WNBA games across ESPN networks were up 5%. Whether every claim in the commentary holds up or not, one thing is impossible to dismiss. Clark remains a massive attention driver. Now the real question is whether Indiana will publicly back her MVP case with the same energy it showed for Mitchell before. That is where this story gets much more interesting.
Hype the video. That'd be greatly appreciated. We got to get right into things, man. Caitlin Clark absolutely on fire, took over. And this is what I'm saying. It does not matter. These Dejanay Carringtons that are talentless, they can't take over the spotlight. Y'all talking about race. We're talking to everything else. Caitlin Clark continues to deliver no matter what is going on. Have you noticed they're not running around showing the ratings for all the other teams around the league? Have you noticed that? Is it because the ratings are not good for PR? I think it's bad PR if they show the other ratings because they won't be very good.
The biggest part of this debate may not even be happening on the court. It is happening on television. The transcript points to ESPN delivering its second most watched WNBA game ever for the second consecutive week, with the Fever Sky matchup reaching 2.6 million viewers. That kind of audience immediately puts Clark back at the center of the league's biggest conversation. Supporters argue that these numbers prove her popularity is not just social media hype. People are actually turning on their televisions to watch her play. At the same time, the transcript makes a much stronger claim that Clark is responsible for the league's ratings surge, and that claim should be treated as commentary rather than established fact. Still, the numbers themselves create an undeniable question. Why does the audience spike so dramatically when Clark is involved? And that leads directly into an even more uncomfortable issue for Indiana.
Notice that? Is it because the ratings are not good for PR? I think it's bad PR if they show the other ratings because they won't be very good. That is why they only show the Caitlin Clark ratings, because while everybody else is running around clout chasing, complaining about this, oh, we want transgenders, oh, we talk about racism, oh, we want to go start a queer league, oh, we want to do this and do that. Caitlin Clark has a real basketball fan base. Her fan base actually watches basketball games.
Last season, the Fever publicly showed major support for Kelsey Mitchell's MVP campaign, including shirts and promotional attention. Now Clark is entering the MVP discussion, yet the transcript argues that the same level of public enthusiasm has not appeared around her. That contrast is what has fans talking. Aaliyah Boston recently praised Mitchell's scoring and work ethic, and supporters of Clark immediately began asking why there was not similar public campaigning for Clark. But praising Mitchell does not automatically mean Boston or the Fever are against Clark. The transcript presents that interpretation as part of the ongoing fan debate, not as proven evidence of a locker room conflict. What is undeniable is that Clark's numbers have made the MVP conversation much harder to dismiss. If Indiana truly believes she belongs among the league's elite, the next question is whether the organization will show it publicly.
fan base. Her fan base actually watches basketball games, which is why her ratings and viewership reflect that. Take a look at this. For the second consecutive week, ESPN delivered its second most watched WNBA game ever. Okay, Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky on ABC averaged 2.6 million viewers, up 79%. It says WNBA on ESPN networks is up 5%. Caitlin Clark shutting down.
Forget the social media arguments for a moment and look at the basketball itself. The transcript highlights Clark's combination of scoring and playmaking, pointing to roughly 40 points created per game and elite assist production. That matters because an MVP case cannot simply be reduced to who scores the most points. Clark's passing forces defenses to react differently, creates opportunities for teammates, and gives Indiana another dimension every time she has the ball. The transcript also pushes back against the idea that Mitchell's higher scoring average automatically makes her more valuable, arguing that Clark's playmaking creates additional scoring opportunities that do not appear in her own points total. Whether voters ultimately agree with that argument is another question, but the case itself is becoming much harder to ignore. And if Clark continues producing at this level, the MVP debate may soon stop being about whether she belongs in the conversation and start being about how high she should finish.
Clark absolutely shutting it down, and then we have to get into this as well. Don't you love to see it? Don't you love to see it? ESPN top 3 betting odds for MVP as of today. You got A'ja Wilson, Caitlin Clark, and Olivia Miles. Now, what will be very, very interesting here is we saw the Indiana Fever go out and do an MVP campaign for Kelsey Mitchell last season. They went and wore shirts. They wore all types of, they got shirts made.
The controversy grows when you look at how the Fever have handled their biggest stars. The transcript argues that Indiana once went all in on Mitchell's MVP push, but now Clark's rise has created a very different situation. Clark is producing at an elite level, drawing enormous attention, and sitting near the top of the MVP conversation. Yet there has been no equally obvious campaign from the organization. Fans are naturally asking why. Is Indiana simply letting the players' performances speak for themselves? Or should the franchise be doing more to promote the player who has become its biggest attraction? That question becomes even harder to avoid when Clark's impact is compared with the attention surrounding other MVP candidates.
Kelsey Mitchell last season, they went and wore shirts. They wore all types of, they got shirts made. They damn near put a Kelsey Mitchell MVP logo in the middle of the court and got rid of the Indiana Fever logo last season. It'll be interesting to see if the Indiana Fever put on the full court press for a Caitlin Clark MVP campaign. That'll be interesting. You know, the Las Vegas Aces are going to have their A'ja Wilson campaign going on. The Minnesota Lynx are already doing their Olivia Miles MVP campaign.
There is another reason Clark's MVP argument has gained momentum. Her value cannot be measured by scoring alone. The transcript emphasizes her ability to create points for teammates through passing while also demanding constant defensive attention. That combination can completely change how a team operates. A defender cannot simply focus on Clark's scoring because her passing creates another threat the moment help arrives. That opens opportunities for players like Mitchell and others around her. So when someone looks only at points per game, they may be missing a large part of Clark's actual impact. The debate is no longer simply about who scores more. It is about who creates the most value every time they step onto the floor. And that brings the conversation back to the Fever themselves.
For Caitlin Clark's MVP campaign. And let's take a look at this. It says we can dead that 11th best guard narrative. Caitlin Clark is easily top 2 in the MVP race, and she isn't number 2. Take a look here. Caitlin Clark is first in the league in points created. First in the league with points created. She's first in the league in points per game created, meaning points and assists and all, you know what I mean? 40 a game. This is the difference. And look, I get it.
If Clark continues producing at this level, Indiana will eventually have to decide how aggressively it wants to support her MVP case. The transcript questions whether the franchise is fully embracing the moment or simply allowing the conversation to develop on its own. There is no proof that the Fever are intentionally holding Clark back, and claims about internal resentment or coordinated silence remain speculation. But the contrast in public attention is enough to keep fans talking. Clark has already become one of the league's biggest attractions, and her performances are putting her in serious award conversations. If Indiana wants to build around her for the long term, publicly recognizing that value would seem like the obvious move. But the biggest question is whether the numbers will force that decision before the season is over.
On behalf of Stephanie White, but you didn't speak out for Caitlin when the fist was on her throat. I see you speaking out for Stephanie White, but you didn't speak out for Sophie Cunningham when she got knocked out of the air by Dejanay Carrington. You chose to be quiet about all of that. Listen. I'm starting to think you on some Stephanie White, Kelsey Mitchell stuff, and I'm not really rocking with it, just to be completely honest with you. So the same way you got on this camera and talked about how Kelsey's the MVP, you need to get on camera and do your Caitlin Clark MVP campaign, because with numbers like this.
At this point, the Caitlin Clark MVP debate is no longer something fans can simply brush aside. The combination of scoring, playmaking, points created, television attention, and overall influence has created a legitimate case worth discussing. That does not guarantee she will win the award, and the transcript's stronger claims about the Fever's motives should be viewed as opinion rather than fact. But the larger story is undeniable. Clark has moved from being discussed as a promising young star to being measured against the league's best players. If she keeps producing, the pressure on Indiana and the MVP voters will only increase. The question may soon change from, does Clark belong in the MVP conversation, to how can anyone leave her out? And that is exactly what makes this season so fascinating.